We can find out at the beginning of the process and we go, okay, that's not a big deal. Or we can
Correct.
find out at the closing table and you fucked every. Hey everybody, I'm Dave Taylor with Real and 10K Listing. Today I am hanging out with Todd. Todd, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Todd with Union Home Mortgage over here in Unalaska.
Yeah. Now, Todd, you and I have been working together since the beginning of my career as a realtor. How long have you been in the mortgage lending side?
So I got into mortgages back in 2005
Okay, great time.
through 2008 and a half.
Okay.
Yep. Not so good time. Got out for a couple years, was a financial advisor,
Oh,
and
okay.
then came back into it because I missed it so much.
Yeah.
2011 through now? So how long is that?
13 years.
13 plus the other portion before. Yeah, it's like 18.
Yeah. So you've been doing it a while.
The thing about real estate is that it's constantly changing. It's always moving.
Yep.
It's never static at all. It's always going forward.
Well, it's interesting you talk about that. I've only been in for 5 years and I feel like it's been a constant change. Now, we had a giant pandemic. COVID really changed real estate. It's at the point now where it's kind of stabilizing. What are some of the biggest changes from 2004 to today that you've seen?
Wow. How much time do we have again?
We've got 18 years worth to talk about.
The big thing is a lot more consumer protection,
Cool.
which I think
And what do you mean
is
by that is home buy protection for home buyers?
home buyers.
Yeah.
Correct. And a lot more just upfront disclosures, communication, so people know what they're actually getting themselves into.
That's big.
Which I think there's definitely some challenges with the changes, but overall, as a consumer, a lot more protection. And there's a lot more government entities set up for protecting the consumer.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it all started with people not doing their job correctly,
Yep.
and explaining things correctly, putting people in positions where they truly should not afford that house. They can't afford the house, but yet they're getting it. So
Yeah.
I would say that, and just overall programs.
Mhm.
You know, back then was you can buy a house if you have the pulse. Let me check your pulse.
Yep.
Let me make sure you're not a vampire.
Yeah.
And you're good to go.
Yeah.
Just verifying income, employment, just making sure you can have success with the house versus here you go. Here's your
Starting
house.
somebody off with essentially a bad investment. And that's interesting that you talk about the protections there are meant to help people not be put into a shitty situation, right? And you were actually one of the people who helped me understand what happened in 2008 and what is different today. Because of course, everybody's question is, hey, is there a recession coming? Are home prices going to crash? And all of those questions. And you made it clear to me that one of the reasons why it's not going to crash, or we don't see a crash coming, is because of those protections. The way that lending was back in 2008 is vastly different than today for those reasons.
The big thing is, as a lender, we got to make sure that you're in a house that you can afford.
Yep.
Right. And that's why one of the questions we ask is, what kind of monthly payment do you think you can afford, or that you're comfortable with? Because it's different for everyone, right?
Yeah.
And everyone has different things they do for fun, liabilities, different things going on in their life. So, but if you don't know that, it's putting it into a loan officer's hand that maybe will stretch things to the max, may not be good.
It's one of the things that drew me to you right off the bat. When you and I talk to home buyers, there are lenders or banks out there that are like, hey, congratulations, home buyer. You can afford $600,000 a home. Then when we look at the budget, maybe $300,000 worth of home is where we should be at, or maybe where you want to be at. And you don't push. And I really appreciate that. I cannot emphasize how much of a struggle it would be to have my lender constantly telling somebody, no, you should be in a bigger, more expensive house just because you should be in a bigger and more expensive house. I too have that mentality of like, I want to make sure that we're setting you up for success right from the get-go. I've literally told people, now's not a great time for you to buy. Looking at your numbers, having these kind of conversations of like, you know, you're renting at $600 a month. the best we can do to get you into a home today would be $1,000 a
Yeah.
month. Is that making sense for you, right?
I think people need that direction, right? They don't know what they don't know, so it's our
Yep.
jobs as professionals to help them, coach them, guide them, and give them direction. It happens all the time. It's really asking the question, what kind of monthly payment you're comfortable paying each month will put things in perspective right away. And if you don't have that, then it's a conversation we're going to talk about, or go talk to your spouse or whoever, what kind of monthly payment you think you can realistically do each month, because I think you gotta have those that in your mind for sure before you can go out there, start shopping.
Yeah, absolutely. Before you start looking at homes in person, it's fine to look at all the homes you want on Zillow,
Mm-hmm.
but you really should know where the money is before you start going and looking at homes. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
And that's usually a red flag for me when I'm talking to a home buyer and we haven't gone and looked at homes yet. And they're like, yeah, can you set up these 7 homes? I go, if we're that serious about home buying, have you talked to a lender yet? Here's a great one. You should
Yep.
talk to them, just text them. And they're like, no, 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 we're good. What do you mean you're good? Do you have a giant pot of money that I'm not aware of?
Mhm.
No, we're good. Okay, cool. This is a red flag. I will start
Yeah.
asking those questions because this is such a big piece of it. I appreciate that you emphasize the fact that you have the conversation around the monthly amount. So often we get wrapped in our head about the 200,000, the 400,000, right? The price of the overall
Mhm.
home that we don't look at that monthly cost. And that's where you're going to feel it.
I mean, every website out there, as much as I mean, Realtor.com, Zillow, all those websites have the calculator,
Yeah.
and people see that calculator and they think that number is so accurate, right? And so they're in their mind like, oh, hey, we get them pre-approved. They're like, well, your monthly payment's going to be $3,000 a month. We're like, well, Todd, Zillow says $2,200 a month.
Yeah.
Great. And so, I mean, it's just having putting things into reality, because it's not everyone's situation is different. Down payment, I
Yeah.
mean, all program, all that stuff, right? So it has such a big bearing on that monthly payment that, yeah, it's very, very interesting. And honestly, best is like, oh, I want to buy a house for 500,000. Great. What kind of monthly payment do you think it's going to cost?
Yeah.
Well, we're hoping to be around like 1,500 to 2,000. Okay, that should cover your taxes and insurance for the year. In reality, it's just it gets kind of, we know what
Convoluted.
direction we can go with that conversation from there. People forget about that piece of it for sure.
You mentioned it before, right? We're here to educate,
Mhm.
guide, and coach. We're not here to tell you what you can and can't do, but we are here to, hey, have you thought about this?
Mhm.
Right? I'm a big believer that not everybody's situation is set up to buy a home, and
Mhm.
that's okay. If you want to work on it, you can get to the point where
Yeah.
you own a home. It starts with learning and understanding the situation.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the biggest things I think that you and me both can do as professionals is really sit down, take an extra 5, 10 minutes
Yep.
and have a conversation. That's something that's been missed a lot in our industries during COVID.
Oh,
Everything was
God.
just so fast, fast, fast,
Yep.
buy, buy, buy. And there wasn't really any conversation about what people were actually doing
Yeah.
and what they're buying. People are craving that right now,
Yeah.
right? Just having the conversation, knowing exactly what's going on and what to expect.
Yep.
Because once you sign those papers at the closing day, you shouldn't be asking what's earnest money
Yeah.
or random
Oh,
questions
gosh.
like that. So I think it's just like what we're doing a lot more is slowing down, having a lot more in-depth conversations,
Yep.
figuring out what the big picture looks like, goals in 2, 5, years down the road.
Yeah.
Those are conversations that are needed for
Yep.
sure.
And they don't, you know, you mentioned slowing down. I'm not saying slowing down for weeks, months, or
No.
years. Those conversations can be done in 30 minutes and then thought about, and then
Mhm.
come back and have another quick conversation just to
Correct.
make sure that we're checking in. One of the things that I really work on constantly is how do I keep this both simple,
Mhm.
but also inclusive of all the things that we're actually need to know. And so I will often use like napkin math where I use round numbers that are nice and easy for
Mhm.
math, but then, emphasize that, hey, it's going to be different than this, but this is kind of a good basis if you're thinking through this number. Or, hey, I'm going to use this term so that I'm using this term, such as earnest money, but I'm going to phrase it in a way that, like, hey, earnest money is skin in the game. Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
can remember
yeah.
skin in the game all day.
I like that. That's good. Yeah.
Thanks. That one's been 5 years in the
Yep.
working on that one.
I think the big thing is it's easy for us to talk lingo, right? In real estate, you have the realtor terms, we have our lender terms, and
Yep.
once what you can catch yourself really going down a rabbit hole, they're gonna have no idea what I'm talking about. So it's really just simpling things down, making it using examples like what you just talked about. I use the nurse and doctor approach a lot. So
Okay.
coming to me before you talk to me, the doctor,
Yep.
you got to talk to the nurse first, right? Which is
Okay.
going to be getting your loan documents, getting all the stuff that we need up front,
Yep.
so I can make the informed decision to help you out with the right programs, money out of pocket, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so if we're not asking the right questions, I can't make the right recommendation for you.
And along those same lines, you need to be transparent with me
Mm,
so that I can help
that's a
you.
very good point.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, we're going to find out anyways.
We're going to find out. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
we're
Now,
gonna find
the
out,
difference is
it.
we can find out at the beginning of the process and we go, okay, that's not a big deal. Or we
Correct.
can find out at the closing table and you fucked everything.
We don't want that. We don't want
So,
that.
like, come on, work with us here.
Yeah.
And I mean, both of us, I'm sure, have horror stories of like the last minute bullshit that happened. In our businesses, we're one-man armies, essentially, right? We don't have plethoras of dollars to hire interns or anything like that. And so anytime we can streamline the process to allow ourselves to spend more time on the things that matter,
Yeah.
technology plays such a big piece into our jobs.
Oh, for sure. That's huge. It allows you to have more time with the customer, the
Yeah.
clients, to provide better service. Sometimes people out there that will sit behind and just do too much of that.
Yep.
And not enough that personal touch. And that's where people are kind of left with questions or just they're missing out on that. But
Yeah.
you add that to your arsenal of things you can provide, massive.
Yeah.
For sure.
I like that you talk about that. You can take it too far. Just like with anything, there's that balance. I was talking with Ryan and he was mentioning one of the things that's interesting about home inspectors is they get a snippet of the process. They very rarely know how that went after that, right? Here's the home report.
Oh, yeah. I never thought about that actually.
Blew my mind the first time he ever mentioned it years ago. He's like, here's the report. Good luck. And then he doesn't know if that house ever closed, if
nothing
they
ever-
fixed it, nothing. And so I was
Nothing
like,
ever happens of it. It's like, oh, okay, here you go.
yeah. And I was like, I think there's a way to solve this, right? Because the timeline between your home inspection and the closing is roughly 30 days.
Mhm.
Set a automatic text that goes out to your clients on day 35 that says, hey, this is Ryan from Hess Home Inspection. I did your home inspection. Did you end up closing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The question was, does that add value somewhere? I think the value of asking that question will present itself down the road.
It's that added personal touch
Mhm.
that no one does a follow up. Like, all right, did my service, done, moving on. But you never know who that person might know buying a house the next day, 2 months down the road, right? So that follow up is huge. Even though like they might have a question that they never thought about at that time on that report.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know where the value of that's going to be without just asking the question. So, and we can automate a lot of that using either AI or just good CRMs. And I think there's value there.
But I think that you're definitely not adding value.
Yeah.
If you're just doing a little follow up.
Yep.
Right. I think a lot of times people don't do that enough. Like they have a conversation, do something, and all of a sudden, like, what happens if you spent a minute just sending a quick text or something like that and just checking in?
You actually helped me with this because you let me know that iPhone updated to do send text later.
Yeah. Yep.
I get up naturally at 5 a.m. From 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., I don't want to text anybody. Like it is bad manners to text somebody. That's how I was raised, right?
Yeah.
So what I will do is I will prep for all those clients that have iPhones at least. I will prep and send later probably a half a dozen texts
Isn't that amazing?
every time. I love it.
And you talk to the Android users, like, well, Android's had that for years. Like, well, it's not the same. Apple's is way easier to use. I don't know, but it's a game changer, right? It's just like I do my work a lot of times at night. I'm more of a night owl. You're the early bird.
I'm the opposite. It's all good.
But it's just things come in your head. You're just like, oh my God. But now it's just you can have it set up, sent off.
So nice.
Yeah, it's huge.
Now I got to go check to see if you can do that on a specific day in the future. I think you can. I think you can do more than just like tomorrow.
I think you can have multiple set up.
Yeah, because now I'll just set up like
That's
3 texts that go out
boom.
after the closing, like a week later. I follow up with stuff.
I never thought about that too.
See, this is why we do our conversations,
Yeah,
just so that we're learning together. Like, oh, wait a
I
second.
like that.
Give me 2 seconds.
Dang.
I'm going to see if you can actually text send
Uh,
later. Yep. I can pick a date. So guess what? You're going to get a text that, oh, nope, it stopped me. December 30th is as far out as I can go. No, it's letting me go. You're going to get one on Saturday, February 8th.
And I'm
What the
sure you
fuck?
can do multiple then too, right? All right. That's awesome.
I just sent
Make
you, what the fuck, Todd? We won't know why it got sent.
It's gonna be some random like what the
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's amazing. I love it. I love it. I mean, just using technology as your friend is helping making your life less stressful,
Yeah.
easier. It's already too much going on. So, and I feel like in life in general, you pulled into all these different directions, and something so small can make a big difference in our lives. It's
Absolutely.
crazy.
I years ago shut off all notifications on my phone. No sounds, no rumbles, no little badges. The only thing that will come through my phone that will make noise is a phone call. Because of that, I now check emails and texts on my own time. I consciously make the decision to check those at those times rather than I'm working on something, I'm in the zone, beep. Oh, what happened? And you pick up your phone and now you're off the zone forever.
Just like that. I like that idea. I think I saw something like a week or two ago on the news how it used to be like people wanted notifications, all this stuff.
Yep.
And now it's such a large percentage of people have their phones on silent or just vibrate, or notifications are getting less and less and less.
Yeah.
The thing's constantly going off.
Yeah. My headphones, I just upgraded the AirPods. And the very first question is like, do you want all the notifications? And I was like, fuck no. No, if I'm listening to something, I don't want any of those notifications. Like,
seriously.
Oh, God, no.
Oh, man.
Well, and again,
my favorite part about the air, I just literally happened yesterday. My kid it's like, Brock is texting you a message, and I responded. I was having a conversation. So my text was going through as a conversation to him.
Yep.
Versus this complete shit show. I'm like, all right, this needs to be done. Like, this is so stupid.
One of my first experiences with that, when the iPhones first came out, they would do, hey, you've got a text, and then read the text out loud. I was in the military, and I was in a meeting with all the officers, so all the leadership, and my wife sent me something inappropriate. It started reading it out loud, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I don't know.
That was before pictures were existed.
Oh my God. Yeah, long before Snapchat. It was very embarrassing. I was a young officer.
Hilarious.
Fucking idiot ensign.
Those guys ate it up, though.
Oh, they loved it.
They loved it.
They absolutely loved it.
Like,
they
just
loved
play it
my
again.
wife.
Your face turned more red than I actually imagined.
So embarrassed, and they did not care.
Yeah,
they loved it. Yeah, that's one of my first experiences with that, and I shut that stuff off.
Oh, yeah.
The other one is the autocorrect text.
Oh, yep.
Of like changing words to other words. I shut that off too.
Kind of enjoyed that though, because you just never know what comes. You just never know what's going to be said or what. I could show you some really funny ones just in the last week.
I'd rather have the typo and then say it was a typo than have it be like, no, autocorrect changed that to something that was not intended. Well, especially with real estate, we have so many weird words that get twisted on auto.
But you know what's funny though? Where did that come from? How did autocorrect come up with that? It's like, what is this? Who's that person sitting behind autocorrect? Just making up words and doing weird things with that. I want that person's job.
Good job. Right up there with the naming of the crayon colors, just making weird shit up. I bet you that's a job that went to AI.
That's amazing.
Well, the point of the conversation is technology can be both a blessing and a curse, and you got to find a balance with it. With our jobs, you can be on your phone constantly, and it can eat away at your work-life balance. You have to make that decision not to let it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I really appreciate. I'm going to do the same thing. The notifications thing.
Cool.
That's great.
Now I'm going to send you a
That's
bunch of shit
great.
at midnight just to see if you're checking your phone.
Well, you'd be sleeping. Well,
I'll be sleeping.
no, you just have it be perfect. I'm like, you're still awake?
Nope.
Nothing for 8 hours later.
I'm always like shocked when I get a
Uh,
message from somebody at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
I'll look at it and I go, okay, do I need to respond to this?
Mhm.
Sometimes, yeah, I could respond to this. This isn't something I need to wait 2 hours on just so that it's a decent time of the day.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, if you're messaging me before 9 a.m., and it's not because I'm not working, it's because I grew up with that mentality of
Yeah.
like, you don't call people on Saturdays. You don't.
That's your time, right? From
Yeah.
like 5 a.m. until else
9,
wakes
yeah.
up. And it's hard to find that time
Yeah.
too. So I don't know. I would imagine that you really appreciate those 2 extra hours of yourself.
Earlier this year, I was part of a realtor panel
Mhm.
giving a conversation to other realtors about, the business and things that we can do to improve.
Mhm.
And one of my main points that I was trying to make was trust your body.
Mm.
If you are a morning person, then get up in the morning and don't fight that.
Yeah.
If you're a nighttime person, great. Don't fight that.
Mhm.
Find ways to support yourself in the way that your body's supposed to work, right? And it comes from
Good point.
this conversation around like right from the get-go as kids. When do we go to school? 5, 6 years old.
Mhm.
And we are forced into 8 to 4 for school. And then we go into our corporate jobs and we're forced into 8 to 5.
Mhm.
And some of us just don't function at 8 a.m. And then we get shit on all of our life for showing up late or we can't function during those times. For me, I really stop functioning at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There are things that I can force myself to do if I've got showings or something like that, but my productivity drops.
Yeah.
And
But it's awesome that a lot of people just don't know that or pay attention to it.
yep.
Here I am having coffee at 3:20 here and loving life. But if you just go on your day getting frustrated without getting stuff done, it's like, well, just know yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the point of that realtor panel I was
Mhm.
trying to make. Know yourself.
Yeah.
Trust in your body's actual functions, not what everybody else tells you you're supposed to do, right? And so often we think that we can only do this job nights and weekends. We also then have to jam in and work productively from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. because we might get a phone call there. We don't have to. Both on the lending side and on the realtor side, build your schedule,
Mhm.
make it work for you. Build in time to take care of yourself, whether it's working out, stretching, or yoga, spending extra time with your family, reading, or 1,000 other things. Make this business yours, not somebody else's.
I think people forget about that part. There's so much going on with their lives. There's so many different directions being pulled, and it's so easy. Honestly, I went through that myself because you get so caught up in the business, right? And I think we're both the same. We care about people so much.
Yeah.
I want to make sure everyone's having a great experience. Just try and make things as easy as possible,
Stress
right?
free.
I'm constantly worrying about them.
Yep.
And so I think it's easy to lose track of yourself. It's just like, oh my God,
Yep.
I'm putting everyone else first besides my family
Yeah.
because I'm so worried about them having the experience that they need. So
Well,
really appreciate that for sure.
thank you. Yeah. And one of the mentors I had over the years really emphasized the fact of, you want to help people.
Hmm.
Great. But if you're incapacitated, how many people are you helping?
Correct.
And that's where it comes in of taking care of yourself so that you can then help people.
Because if you're taking care of yourself, you're going to be that much more helpful for them as well.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Todd, off camera, one of the things that we were talking about just now was how we can support our clients. Talk to me about some of the ways that you just explain the basics so that everybody can understand them.
Yeah, I think the big thing is it's easy for us to assume people know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And unfortunately, we can't do that, right? So it's our jobs to really slow down, have that conversation up front with them. And I think one of the things that we do really good together is that I know that I'm going to explain things and you're going to do the same thing. So that customer has an awesome experience versus whether it's you work with a different lender or me with a different agent.
Yep.
I have an example right now. We were just talking about where the agent didn't explain earnest money at all.
Yeah. Which
So
is
I have a lovely older couple that are trying to buy their first house, and they are beyond stressed right now because that agent never explained to them
yeah.
this earnest money situation now that this is, put them into kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it's a tough situation.
Yeah, we see it often in situations when we're not working with a known quantity. Like you mentioned, a realtor that you've never worked with before, or me when a buyer comes with a lender. There's a reason why I work
Yeah.
with you. We both will have that conversation, which reinforces the learning process, right?
Mhm.
When I talk about earnest money and then you mention earnest money, maybe that seed was just barely there. And then when you talk about
Yeah.
it grows into understanding and awareness.
Correct.
One of the things that I do with all of my clients is I walk through the buying process twice. At a house, once we've done a showing, and I'm starting to get this feel that they might pull the trigger, I walk through the offer process. I walk through the offer price. I walk through earnest money and what that is. I walk through the closing date and what to expect and how that can wiggle. I talk about home inspections and what that costs and the fact that home inspections are going to come back
Mhm.
with 60 pages of notes. Don't freak out, right? We're weeks before we
Uh,
get that, and I'm still having that
yeah.
conversation. Financing and appraisal, and like, here's how things can go smoothly. Here's where we might have some bumps, and it's okay. We're going to work through those.
Yep.
And so we do that at the house. Then when they say, David, we're ready to make an offer, I build the entire offer and I then walk them through that offer before we sign anything, reinforcing those key areas. Here's the offer price. Here's the closing date. Here's how much we're doing in earnest money. We've got 5 days after they accept the offer on it.
Yep.
Home inspection, this. I want people to understand what they're signing.
Yeah. People, there's so many moving parts and different things going on. They're not going to remember everything.
No,
Right.
absolutely
So if
not.
we're not going through that stuff a couple times,
A couple times.
I do the same thing. It's like we have an initial conversation.
Yep.
I always talk about upfront costs, what the whole, the entire process looks like.
Yeah.
And then we do it probably 3 times going through upfront. I feel like upfront cost is a big thing.
Yeah.
And then overall the end cash to close and monthly payment, all that. So it's going through it multiple times.
Yep.
Just because they'll grab bits and pieces out of each of that, each of those conversations, they'll get a little bit more out of that. So,
A couple hear this and then they leave you and they
yeah.
have 2 different pieces of information and they're like, which is it? It's okay. I'm here. I can answer
Yeah.
these questions for you, but let me answer these questions for you, right? Rather than going to Google and searching up some random answer from
Man.
Hawaii or whatever. That's the
Correct.
worst thing we can do here.
Like, you can go down a rabbit hole real fast on that. If you're going on Google searching that, we're not doing our jobs correctly. Slowing down, having more conversation, and just listening
Yeah.
to what the question is, so we can make sure that we understand what they're actually asking as well.
And along those same lines, even before you get fully ready to purchase a home, you can start this process early.
Mhm.
I have a client that we closed on a property. We met 2.5 years ago. We had a really good conversation, but they weren't at the point where they were ready.
Mhm.
I had given them recommendations on like, hey, these are things that you can do to get prepared. Fast forward 2.5 years later, they're like, okay, David, we're ready now. I was like, sweet, let's go, right?
Yeah.
It only took us a week to find them a home. Right?
I literally just did a video about this last week. Actually, applications picked up because it sounds like people are starting to get jump started on their 2025 goals right now, or
Yeah.
start figuring what they're going to do. If you're looking at buying a house, if you know you're going to buy a house in the next even 1-2 years, whatever,
Absolutely.
why not have conversations now to make sure that you're ready to prepare yourself? And on the financing side, what if you are qualifying for a lower end product that you can go for a much bigger opportunity? Just making sure credit's in order and like all this stuff that can really affect your pre-approval. Why not have a conversation beforehand, be proactive?
Well, and you hit it right on the head there. You can take actions today in, a year before you're ready to make an offer, start looking at homes that will directly improve your home buying process.
Even if it's a rate difference of 0.25%, huge.
Yeah, which is funny
it's
because we say
it's
0.25% and 0.5%, and people are like, oh, those are very small numbers. On
big
a
picture.
$200,000 home, a 0.5% is a savings of $10,000 to $20,000 over 30 years.
It's massive.
Yeah.
You want a pay increase of $20,000? I know I do.
Not going to complain about that, right?
It's
And you're like, All it would take is do these two things over the next 30 days, 90 days,
Yeah.
and you'll have that improvement, right? But again, you can go online and Google it, and then you get like this long list of 90 things that you should do, and none of it actually helps
Yeah.
you, rather than just talk to two people, us, who understand this and can guide you on that for your specific situation.
There's so many different there's so many different examples you can give out there. I mean, everyone's situation is gonna be different,
Yep.
right? Everyone's credits gonna be different.
Yep.
Length of time, and there's so many variables that go into play with it that you can't just Google, here's my situation, what's gonna happen. It's just
Yeah.
you can't do that, right? So
Yeah.
maybe not yet, but maybe someday.
Someday. I'm sure ChatGPT will figure that out at some point. I recently talked with a couple who were getting ready to sell their house and move somewhere that they knew they were only going to be 2 years.
Mhm.
And so we had the situational conversation of, look, you could buy something and then you know you're only going to be here 2 years. You're going to have to either sell it or rent it out. Oh, we never thought about renting it out. Yeah, we could intentionally buy this next one to turn it into a rental property. Well, that is a very different conversation than buying a home that really only starts to make you money 5 to 10 years of your ownership. Looking at it as a rental property, you live in it for 2 years. When you move out, you automatically put somebody in there. It's a different home search or property
Yeah.
search then.
Yeah.
That's not something they would have ever Googled, right?
No.
But it was very situational because they're only going to be there 2 years. They know they're only going to be there
I
2
mean,
years.
on your standpoint, that's life changing. Think
Oh,
about them
yeah.
in 10, 15 years from now, right? They're gonna call you and say, that one time.
That one conversation however long ago. This goes to that piece that you were talking about of assuming people's knowledge and such. One of the things that, and I'm sure you deal with this too, is you own property. When I start to talk about real estate investing
Mhm.
and you're looking to buy your first home, it is very easy for me to get very overwhelming on
Oh,
that
yeah.
topic, right? You could buy this house now, and in X years, you could rent it out and it'll be worth X. And then you can use this equity over here to buy this one. And in 10 years, you actually have 4 properties and they're making you X dollars. With that particular couple, I stopped at 2 properties. But at 2 properties, 5 years from now, they were generating roughly $3,000 a month in gross income. And so
Dang.
we had the conversation of, okay, let's stop here. Let's fast forward 15 years. You don't buy anything else and you just pay these two off.
Mhm.
In 15 years, with these two paid off, you are bringing in about $30,000 more a year. How would that affect you guys? And they went, that's what she's making a year.
It's life changing.
Yeah.
But not to mention that the equity growth and all that,
Absolutely, all those pieces.
income. Yeah, just so many. Yeah, that's huge.
And so in both of their current jobs, they didn't have retirement yet.
Mhm.
They didn't have 401ks. The job that he was going into didn't have a retirement plan or anything like that. And I was like, you would literally be building your own retirement plan
Yeah.
by planning instead of buying, or even worse, renting here a property that will then create value over time for you. But if you don't know that, you don't know that. And again, I gotta bring it down into a simple way where I'm not demeaning anybody, but also like, hey, this is a cool
It makes
opportunity.
me wonder how many people are missing that kind of opportunity with those kind of conversations for sure.
One of the reasons that I'm passionate about it is I missed out in the military.
Oh,
We were forced to move every 18 to 24 months. And if we had thought about it, right?
Mhm.
So I was in the military 16 to 12 years ago, right? So I was in 4 years. So 16 years ago, we were in Florida and we were in California. Florida, we could have bought a house easily in our area for about 100,000. That house today would be 300K. The one in California, we were renting for 1,500 a month. But that house today, I have it on my Zillow so that it pops up and makes me feel bad every time. is now worth
I was
$900,000.
going to say that's just some
Yep.
crazy.
Yeah. We could have absolutely looked at a way to purchase that 3% down, 3.5% down with an FHA, lived there, paid it down, moved, rented it out for this entire time.
Yep.
And then, but again, like, if you don't know, you don't know.
I always love that when the vets come to us looking for the VA loan or moving
Mhm.
from one state, and I feel like it's getting more and more common where people are taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
Right? It's great. It's a
Mhm.
great way to get into there, and obviously living there for that period of time, making the updates you want to do to it. You know what kind of house you have, and then rent it up.
Yeah, my brother's an Army officer right now, and before he went to his first station, him, me, my wife, and his wife sat down and drew out a 10-year plan. Okay, you're going to be here for about 2 to 3 years. You could buy here, then move here, buy here, move here. And by the time you got out of the military, your rental properties would be making more
Excuse me.
than what the military was paying you. And he's like, yeah, that can't be true. And I was like, I know it can't be true, but it is.
Yeah,
Here's
it's
the
one of those too
map.
good to be true things. I mean, that's
Yeah. Well, and again, if you don't know, you don't know.
once in a while it sounds too good to be true, and then it's
Well, why isn't everybody doing this?
Yeah.
Because everybody doesn't want to.
Or people don't talk about it.
They don't talk about it. I had that with 401ks. I was out of college, in the military, 3 years before I had a master sergeant who I went onto the ship, and every time that there's a new group of people, he'll take us into a classroom and he will explain what 401ks are and how return on interest works and how
Really?
you can adjust your rate of return and all of those things. And that hour-long conversation put me on the path that I am today. But I then went to my parents and I was like, why the fuck did you not teach me this? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, 401ks, do you know how these work? And they're like, no. And I taught my parents. And then I went to my grandparents, who my grandfather owned businesses. He was a realtor for a while. He owned a local entertainment business, like all of this stuff. And I was like, hey, why didn't you teach me about 401ks? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, he didn't know.
Yeah.
And then I was looking back and I was like, no one taught me in high school. No one taught me in college. No one taught me the first 3 years as a military officer.
Yep. That's
Really.
pretty common, especially in any job. It's just like, hey, you can sign up for this, but no one knows what it actually does or what it can do for you.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Since then, I've really emphasized trying to teach financial literacy. When I was in my corporate job, I created an entire class on financial literacy, talking about 401ks and retirement at any age, let alone just, at the end, and all of those pieces. And then I've had multiple, it's weird to say, but multiple financial classes with my kids. I have an 11, a 14, and 15-year-old, and walked through budgeting, walked through 401ks, walked through real estate investing, walked through just like part-time job, just to at least plant those seeds.
Yeah. Well, I think kids follow the parents' footsteps so much,
Absolutely.
right? Too. So they're taking what you teach them.
Yep.
You guys are actually doing it, living that stuff as well.
Trying.
Right. And they're seeing that, where a lot of people just they're too scared to talk about it with their kids, or just don't have those conversations at all. It's needed. Sure.
If you don't know, you're not going to teach it.
That's true.
So yeah, it's interesting. We'll find out someday if it was the right thing to do. So I am a Ramsey trusted agent. You know Dave Ramsey.
I do.
Not personally.
I mean, we did talk this morning for man hour. That was through Snapchat.
Oh, yeah, you got Dave Ramsey on Snapchat. That would be hilarious if we just pull that up. But yeah, the way the Ramsey trusted agent works is they only select 3 agents in a geographical area, right? And you have to be X number of years in, you have to do X number of transactions, and then you have to pass their test. They have like a whole entrance exam to get in, and you have to do a handful of interviews with them to make sure that you're a cultural fit and all of this. So last year, this was one of the big things I was making a push for, because I'm a big believer in a lot of the things that he teaches, right up to the baby steps and budgeting. And this goes back to you being of that same mentality of talking about the monthly cost of a mortgage and your taxes and all of those pieces.
I think the budget thing has been in the past for a lot of people, or just never has been done.
Yeah.
It's really eye-opening for couples to have that conversation. Like, we actually never talked about things like this. Well, you might want to start doing that, especially if you're buying a house. There's expenses or all the different things that go on.
And just taking a moment to take the right step forward with the data. If you don't know how much money is coming in, and more importantly, how much money is going out in all of the little facets, right? Earlier today, we were talking about Quick Trip, and there was a time that our budget showed that 15% of all of our money going out.
So Quick Trip, if you're listening.
Believe me, these people know what Quick Trip is. Yeah. Our local gas station, 15% of all our money that was going out was going to Quick Trip, not gas stations.
And right now, they're smiling right now.
Quick
They're
Trip,
like,
absolutely
oh, it's 20%. So we're
there. We've done better. We've reduced that significantly, but we didn't know because we weren't tracking it.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that one hurt my soul a little bit. Like, because it wasn't 15% on gas. It was all the other stuff.
Goodies. It's all the goodies. It's actually kind of scary when you put the numbers together. We spent that much at one place.
Food is our number one cost as a family. Still today. We can blame it on groceries. Yes, groceries are a big piece. But I will say that our grocery costs is the same as it was 4 years ago. We know this because we have that data. Now, we know also that we're getting significantly less than we were 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But our actual monthly cost is the same. Food is the number one.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I don't know how we pull it off. I think we just keep buying less groceries and we're still good. Food is the number one. The Facebook algorithm knows me on anything educational, on learn this skill. I spend way too much money on just random skills that I may or may not use. The one I literally bought 2 today on 3D modeling and blending for animations.
I think it's great though. I mean, it could be so much worse things.
It could be,
right?
But you haven't actually seen how much it is. It's a lot. It's just
it has to be right up there.
Something I'm working on to reduce that cost.
Yeah.
But one of those educational pieces 3-4 years ago was how to start and run a drone business. And today, one of our biggest sources of income is the drone business.
Drone business.
Yeah, we get to travel.
But you just never know. You just never know what that information can help you out with. Or just having conversations
Yep. Todd, this has been great. Thank you so much for giving me some time today. How can people find you?
Well, first off, I want to say thank you as well. This has been a blast. Get to know you. It's always a pleasure sitting down and talking with you, David.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it very much. You can get a hold of me, 608-519-6605.
Cool.
My cell phone. MidwestMortgageMan.com is my website. Facebook, Insta, all that stuff. Search Midwest Mortgage Man.
Midwest Mortgage Man.
Midwest Mortgage Man.
And of course, you're also on my website, 10klisting.com, so people can find you there as well.
Love it.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much.